Welcome again to Epic Conversations. I'm Diane, and I'm here with my special guest, David. And David, today we are going to talk about leadership. And I've heard this terminology talked about for you in your present position of a father leader. And what is that? Could you share a little bit about? I've never heard of that before. So, well, how did you get this title of father leader?
That's a good question, and I actually love the title. When somebody said, "Well, David, you lead this department. You're more of a father leader," and I'm like, I don't know if you meant that as an insult, but I'm like, I like that, and I think this is where it came from. So when I came into the department, I brought with me the attitude and the excitement of what we get to do in the ministry. Having been in the secular world for years for employment, I come in here and I realized everything that everybody does in the ministry has kingdom impact. And my department is a lot of young people. Probably 40% of my staff are students at the Bible College, at Charis Bible College, and they're 18 to 28. So they haven't experienced what I've experienced, and I don't mean that in the fact that they just don't know. It's like they haven't experienced it, and I've experienced both good and bad. And my desire, my purpose is to make sure that they don't have to experience the bad that I experience.
Oh, that's good.
So a lot of my job, the way I look at my job, is one, to accomplish Andrew's purpose of answering every call and giving people the hope that comes from God, because everything we do on a prayer call is pointing people back to what God said and what God can do, so that they keep the relationship with God. And we're the policeman on the corner. Turn right, no, turn left. But it's always turning towards God. And so that's our job. But I look at my job to also be, not just do the job well that I've been hired to, but coach and teach these young people.
Yes.
And honestly, there's probably only 2 people in the entire 150 people that are younger than me anyhow, so it's kind of fitting. But I feel like it's my responsibility to teach them how to think, how to react to a situation.
Kind of like a mentoring.
Like a mentor.
Almost. An informal mentoring through work, but through using the father image.
Yeah, and so I am very visible in my job. I go out on the floor quite often. I talk to them about their phone calls, what's going on in their life.
Oh, wow, that's good.
So here about 3 weeks ago, I was just leaving work, and a young man who works for me didn't have a car at the time. And I see him walking as I'm leaving work, so I pull up and I said, "Hey, would you like a ride home?" He said, "Yeah." It was cold outside too. So he jumps in the Jeep, and we've got like a 10-minute drive to his house, and tell me a little bit about yourself. And he's telling me this incredible story and the goodness of God and the redemption of God. And so we're just talking about God. We're talking about what God's done in his life. And so I get him home, and I said, "Boy, I have really enjoyed getting to know you better." And I emphasize know you better because knowing you, just like us knowing God, is where the relationship comes from. And the relationship gives you access to corners and dark holes and closets that you don't get access to if you don't have a relationship.
That's a good point. You mean a relationship with him, right?
Relationship with
person.
him, but then also with people. Everything is about relationship. God wants a relationship with us. He wants us to tell other people about him. He wants us to show the goodness of God through what God has done in us. So it's all about relationships to begin with. And so because I've built a relationship within the department, so even though him and I did not have one of depth yet, he just knew my heart. So we have this conversation. We shared with it. I thanked him. I said, "It was so good getting to know you better." So just this week, I happened to get in office earlier than usual, and I had some time, and school hadn't started yet. So I walked down to the school just to see people and see, the smiles on people's faces because God is doing mighty works. I'm sitting there talking to somebody else on staff when the same young man walks up with his girlfriend, and he said, "David, I'd like you to meet my girlfriend." And then he looks at her. "This is the guy I've been talking to you about."
Oh, wow. How does that make you feel, huh? They're talking about you.
I know.
In a good way, because you've had influence in his life.
Yes.
You have spoke right into his heart, and he values that.
Absolutely.
He admires you for that.
So I chatted with her and learned that they both met there. God brought her supernaturally here too.
Mm-hmm.
And so they walk away, and I'm just kind of, like a proud papa, "Hey, you see, kind of like God, have you seen my man Job?" And I can say, have you seen my man here? And I turned to the other staff member I was chatting with. I'm like, that is something when an employee wants to bring their girlfriend over and introduce you. And suddenly that father leader, now I get it. Because as a father, what your son always wants to please you. Mm-hmm. And he wants to show you, look what I did, or meet this special person in my life. And I had a young employee do that. This is the guy I've been talking to you about.
So you have really gone beyond just being an employer. Mm-hmm. You've actually touched the lives of all of your people, and you made that a point to impart your heart, to touch them, to have a relationship with them. People, they're people, not just people on the phone. Mm-hmm. They're not just people who do tasks. They're people, and they have a life and a behind the scenes.
Yes.
That's awesome, David. That is awesome. That is awesome when they actually have an opportunity to, like you said, share all these friends with you. That's what they do with the Father.
Yes.
So that's an interesting question to ask you as the audience. What kind of leader are you? And well, thank you, David, for joining us, and thank you for joining us as well. And we look forward to seeing you next time. In the meantime, have an epic day in the Lord.